It's time to rewrite fate.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei was from Undefeated Bahamut Chronicle and got sent to DxD World Movie. Before we start, please go support IsseiOmniversalCaos for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken characters' gender, but of course Issei is a male. Dear, Issei was not from the human world but from another world, the world of Saijaku Muhai no Bahamut, and he is the brother of Lux and Irie Arcadia, who was kidnapped as a baby and sent to another world where he suffered a great hell. Prologue. In the kingdom of Adismata there was technology and magic, humans too, but also beings of darkness. In a castle that was somewhat far from the village. Inside, a woman could be seen with a large belly because she was 9 months pregnant. Her husband, the king, was by her side holding her hand. King. Don't worry, the pain will pass, just push, darling. Queen. Yes, I know we both always dreamed of having very beautiful children. King. Yes, but did now. Queen. A few minutes passed before she stopped feeling pain and. Why? There were 3 babies crying. The nurse was holding a girl and the male nurse was holding 2 boys. All 3 had the same hair color, it was kind of gray. Nurse. Congratulations, your majesty has 3 beautiful children. The queen carries her children, crying with happiness. The king also dreamed of having children with the person he loved most in the world. Queen. As we call them, darling. King. I think the girl Irie, the other Lux, and the last Issei. Queen. I love Lux Arcadia, Irie Arcadia, and Issei Arcadia. King. We will undoubtedly be the best parents. It has been a week since the news broke that the queen had 3 princes. Many have met the heirs to the throne of the former empire, but many have also wanted to propose marriage to the princes when they grow up. The king and queen were the best parents, as they were very attentive to their children, but then one night, the king and queen had just arrived from a meeting in the throne room and had left a guard watching over their babies, but the guard was dead. They ran into the room until they saw a man who was looking at the 3 princes. But then he took one, the most favored of all, Issei. He turned around and his hair was as black as night, his eyes were purple, and he had a blue sword. King. No. No. The kidnapper ran out the window, breaking it and making the baby start to cry, but then an armor appeared, covering him with a mecha, and flew away. Because it was the dragon armor. The king, desperate for his son's life, orders all the guards to go after him. The queen was crying, holding her 2 children. The kidnapper was flying, but was intercepted by 100 guards in their armor. Soldier. Surrender and hand over the prince. The subject did not speak, but then a cannon emerged from his shoulder and fired, killing the guard and 5 others. He flies high into the sky where a portal has formed, and from that portal another armored figure appears, grabs the baby, and enters the portal. The man, seeing that his companion had left, having completed his mission, turned around, but then a black flash appeared directly from the castle. The king, wearing strange armor, appeared, each wielding a great sword with incredible speed, shattering the kidnapper's armor and causing him to fall. The guards then caught him and took him to the castle to lock him in the dungeons. Where had they taken the prince? The king was very sad, having lost his son. The queen cried almost every night and vowed to take care of her 2 children. But then she realized that her son, the one they took away, had a scar on his cheek. It was like an X. Yes, but my uncle said that if he ever returned home, he had to reunite with his brothers. The kidnapper said that they behaved so that every 16 years the king, in a fit of rage, would kill him. But in another world, the object that the baby had in his hands lived in a house in Japan, more specifically in the city of Kuoh. Leave the baby or a basket near the door. Put down the letter that said. His name is Issei. I apologize for not taking care of him, but we have no other choice than many people they've killed, since our family is dangerous to them, and for that reason they want to kill all our children. I beg you to take care of him, please. Leave the letter, it's already been turned into a baby. He knocks on the door 3 times and disappears. The baby was sleeping when the door opened. I went to see a brunette woman who was looking around. But then, behind her, a man with a brown hair and glasses appeared, but below them were 2 children, a girl and a boy, who, upon seeing the baby, spoke to their parents. Child. Mom, look, it's a baby. The mother didn't go up to the ground to see the baby sleeping peacefully, then the cars in her arms, and from the letter she knew that something like this could happen, and I will do everything possible to keep someone from her family alive. The brown-haired man whose name was Guru tells his wife, named Mickey. Guru. What will we do, love? Mickey. We will take care of him as if he were our son, and he would also be an excellent brother to them. That's how they named it after their family, taking it directly inside the house. But above the house was that same guy watching him, but in his left and right hands there were two spheres, one red and black and the other the same, but this one was red and yellow. Subject. They need to find a new carrier, and I think this child would be excellent. The spheres descended from the hands, going directly into the house and entering the body of the baby who was sleeping in a crib. Subject. Enjoy your life, but you'll have to return sometime in the future. Not your true home. Goodbye Issei Arcadia. Chapter 1. Issei. If they no longer want me in their lives, well, they'll never see me again. Tom takes a katana and cuts off his left arm where it was black with sharp spikes and claws. Aye. He screamed when he cut his arm, but it started to release a lot of steam. Then he began to cut off the other arm, but the left arm was regenerating, so in great desperation, he began to cut off the other arm until he fell. But the door is opened, letting someone in. Issei-chan. Issei. Murayama. They were both looking at each other, but why is Issei like this? Well, let's go back to the past. His name is Hyoudou Issei, or rather, it was, since at the age of 7 he was despised by everyone, and why? Well, because Rias Gremory and Sona Sitri arrived and told the Hyoudou family that Ryu and Issei had very great powers called sacred gears. Ryu possessed Drag, the celestial dragon, and Issei possessed Tiamat, the dragon of karma, but Issei had nothing. From there he began to be beaten and humiliated by everyone. The girl he once fell in love with made him a promise that when he returned they would get married and start a family. Months passed and Issei suffered a lot of torture at the academy because Ryu kept filling it with lies that Issei raped his sister and other things, but he never did that. The teachers did nothing to help him when they beat him. On the contrary, they enjoyed seeing him suffer. One day a fallen angel named Rainer was sent to kill him, but she made a mistake since her target was Ryu and Issei, so she said some very nasty words to them. Rainer. I was wrong, but you know what? I'm glad I killed you. From what I've read, you're not adored. On the contrary, you're a plague. If you die, you'll be doing the world a great favor. Goodbye forever, Spawn. And so he left, but something inside Issei made his wound heal. The magic circle opens and releases Rias, who revives him as her pawn, something he didn't want to accept but had no other choice. Thus the days passed where Issei met Asia Argento, a former nun from the church, but she ended up falling in love with Ryu because of his sweet words, but Issei, not being loved, felt bad. His hair was silver, but he dyed it brown. One day, Razor and Rias discuss their engagement. During the battle, they devise a strategy to win, but Ryu outsmarts them. However, he manages to reach the balance breaker, as does Issei. But how? Because of Issei's sacrifice of his heart and arms, as he was beaten by both of them to make the sacrifice. In the end, he becomes engaged to Rias after winning. Then comes the Sacred Swords incident, where he reunites with Irina, but she had forgotten him because of Ryu, who told her many things about Issei being a pervert and that he would do anything to possess her, and she believes him, as does her partner. Issei began to feel unwell during those days, as he was vomiting a lot of blood and other things. The Gabriel was defeated by Issei, but Ryu took the credit because he claimed to be the strongest Sekiryuutei in history. Unwanted Lucifer appears at the meeting saying that he was allied to the Chaos Brigade, a terrorist organization to destroy the factions and the entire world. Nera Issei. Ryu was defeated, but I entered the battle and managed to defeat Volley. However, Ryu said that he was the one who won and that I was just an obstacle in his path, but deep down I felt a great hatred for him and everyone else. Days passed and we went to the underworld where the meeting of the young demons would take place. There we met Kaneko's sister named Kuroka. That's where the Loki thing happened, where I created a seal better than Odin's. I sealed Loki's children, but Ryu said he was the hero. Everyone was falling for his lies, while I was only earning their contempt for believing him. We have been facing many enemies, like Diodora, Kakao, Rizevum, Crumb Crash, and Trixia, but I wasn't getting anything. When I couldn't contain my feelings for the girls anymore, I decided to confess to them. But it didn't turn out as I expected. Flashback. Issei was in the occult club waiting for all of them who were Rias, Akeno, Asia, Kaneko, Zenobia, Irina, Roswas, Yasaka, Office, Elmenhold, Valeria, Serafal, Sona, Tsubaki, Ravel, Momo, Haruko, Tomo, Yura, Ria, Griselda, Kunu, Kuroka, Lefei, when the door is opened. All the girls come out of there, but when they saw the brunette, they all made a face of hatred. Rias. Tell me why you called us. Issei. The reason I called you was to tell you that I love you. They all remained silent, but then they all started laughing. Rias. Haha, you think I'd be in love with a powerless loser like you? Ryu is a much better man than you. Sona. I'm sorry, but they would see me as the shame of my clan. Serafal. I love my Prince Charming, not a pig like you. Momo. You're the worst, I wish you were never born. Haruko. If it's true, I wish you were never born. Invalid. I'm sorry Issei, but I don't see you as a partner or even as a friend or acquaintance. Ravel. Yoemo Arayu Sama no Ati. So they all said bad things to him, but black veins appeared on Issei's neck and spread across his head without them noticing. Issei gets up and leaves the room, he starts crying, but it's blood, he blames himself for everything that happens, but he also blames them, Ria and Sona, for ruining his life from the beginning. Din flaws back. Nara Issei. From that day I realized that most of them had Ryu's essence except for a few, and I assumed that I had already marked them, but now their eyes were just lifeless and empty. Then he realizes something that terrifies him, so to get rid of that pain he had, he decides to stop feeling that pain forever. He decides to go to the club where there is no one, but it was still time for classes and he didn't care. He pulls a katana from the kendo club, but this one was real. At that moment, Momo, Haruko, Tomo, and Ravel pass by, but upon seeing Issei speeding around with a katana during class time, they decide to talk to him. Momo. Where are you going? Issei, upon seeing her, makes a face of hatred. Issei. What's it to you, Hanaki? Momo. I'm interested because you matter to some people. Issei. Who the hell cares? You don't care and I don't care about you. They were all surprised and hurt by what she said. Haruko. But it will be senpai. Issei. Don't talk like that, you damn fool. Haruko recoils in pain because of how I called her and she started to cry. Ravel. Don't talk to her like that, I know we hurt you days ago, but get over it, nobody can fall in love with you. Issei. Shut your mouth, you damned phoenix demon. He falls to his knees because he starts screaming and spitting out large amounts of blood. Ria. Ice-kun, what's wrong? Issei. I told them to back off. Issei punches her in the stomach and sends her flying into a tree. Everyone was impressed by his strength, but he looked at his arms and saw that the black veins were expanding even further. He stops and runs off with the katana in his hand to the club. The girls help Ria and decide to inform Sona and the others. When she hears what Issei told her and how he ran off, she is very surprised by the force with which he hit Ria. She decides to go to the occult club, but behind them come all the students of the academy and the news club. Present. Issei. What are you doing here? He said with disgust in his voice upon seeing her, since he suffered many blows because of her. Murayama. I came to see how you are. Issei. Fine, now get out. Murayama. Not until you tell me what's wrong. Issei. What do you care about what happens to me? Just like everyone else, I never cared. I still remember that time you cut me with your katana because you thought I was the one who stole your underwear, but I wasn't, so get lost. Murayama ignores him and hugs him from behind. Murayama. I'm sorry, forgive me, I didn't mean to hurt you, but you're a pervert. Issei. I said let me go, damn it. Murayama. No. Issei wanted to hit her for everything she did to him, but he held back. Then they both started to smell something burning and realized it was his arm that was on fire, and the flames continued to spread throughout the club. Murayama. Come please, let's talk outside, but please come. Seeing her desperation, Issei decided to go, but the flames spread farther at great speed. Outside, everyone saw the club burning and went to see what was happening. They quickly called the fire department to put out the fire. Issei and Murayama were almost at the entrance when the structure collapsed and prevented them from leaving, but they decided to go up and jump out the window. When they arrive, they see that everyone is watching them, but when they see Issei bleeding a lot, some are impressed, while others are sad because they don't like seeing him like that, especially Sona and her entourage. Murayama. Issei, we have to jump. Issei. Okay, on the count of 3. Murayama. 1. Issei. 2. Murayama. 3. She is pushed from the second floor by Issei. She falls to the ground bleeding from the blow to her head, the others try to help her, Sona tries to go help Issei, but it seemed that there was a field around the entire club. Sona. Issei, open the seal quickly. He ignored it and closed the window with fire. Many wanted to go, but the seal wouldn't allow it. Inside, Issei was seeing everything. There were some small explosions. He sees the 3 swords that someone gave him. Issei. I don't care if there are people who care about me because they don't deserve my forgiveness. Then he saw his 2 severed arms begin to glow brightly and guessed it was for a reason. Issei. I'll see you soon, Oka-san. The fire begins to consume it until everything. Outside, many tried to pass, but could not until Rias and the others, including the Hyoudou family who were going to a meeting about Issei, saw the club burning. Ryu. What's up? Sona. The club is on fire and there's a seal that won't let us in. Rias. Who put the stamp on it? Sona. It was Issei and he's inside. Upon hearing that, Issei is shocked and goes to Sona, grabbing her arms. Issei. Tell me what isn't there. Sona. The truth is inside. Issei breaks the seal with Tiamat's help. But. The whole club exploded into pieces. Issei was thrown into the air by the shockwave of the explosion. Many fragments fell in different places. The shockwave reached 200 meters away. After a few seconds everything was now in flames. Issei, like the others, felt as if a part of her heart broke. Those who were marked by Ryu felt a great pain in their hearts. Issei started walking slowly, thinking it was a joke, but it wasn't. Issei falls to her knees and screams at the top of her lungs. Issei. Oni-chan. 3 hours passed since the explosion. The firefighters managed to extinguish the fire, but they went to check if Issei was alright. Sirzechs was called, as were other leaders. They entered and saw everything charred. They searched for something, but only found the melted kendo katana and a laptop still intact. Asia. Ai. Everyone can see that it was a severed arm. But also some clothes on the floor. They realize it was Issei's. Rias searches for Issei with the pieces, but they are under a lot of rubble with another arm. Rias. Perhaps. Asia. Isan. Sona. Did she die? Many wandered around sadly, but others did not. Sirzechs decided to find out what was on that laptop, but he wanted all the leaders to be present. In the underworld. All the students from the academy were there, since there was no point in hiding something they already knew. Sirzechs. Well, I called you here because Hyoudou Issei died. Tannin. Well, now we no longer have an obstacle here. Sirzechs. Well, we discovered that the arm belonged to Issei and he has dragon genes. Everyone was in shock. Isaka. What do you mean that useless dragon wasn't a dragon? Azazel. I'm not lying, the DNA is correct, all his blood is pure dragon. Sirzechs. I'm leaving this laptop aside. Azazel connects the laptop to a screen with a cable, but they don't realize it was being broadcast throughout the underworld, heaven, Gregory, Hyoudou, Olympus, Asgard, and the human world. They didn't understand what was happening, but then the screen lit up, revealing Issei with both arms bandaged. Many didn't know why Issei was like that, but then he spoke through the recording. Is it on? Okay, he said, moving the laptop camera. Many of you don't understand who I am, so I'll make it easy. My name is Hyoudou Issei, or rather, I was a Hyoudou. The reason I'm recording all this is for a reason. Since I was a child, I felt different around the Hyoudou family, whom I came to consider my true parents. They were always there for me and gave me a lot of love, just like Ryu and Issei Hyoudou, but everyone watched, impressed, as he was about to tell them his life story. The students at the academy thought it would be boring to hear his story, but they wanted to know what was happening. Not everything lasts forever. Sona, Sitri and Rias Gremory came to my house when I was 8 years old. They told my parents about the supernatural and the sacred gears that resided within my siblings. They said I didn't possess anything special and that I was just an ordinary human. Every day I suffered abuse, beatings, humiliation, and other things at their hands. And if you don't believe me, here's the evidence, he said, showing what he had recorded on his memory cards. His siblings were doing this. He was lying on the ground as a child and Ryu was kicking him. Issei had her glove and threw a blue energy sphere that hit him in the face, making him scream and bleed profusely. Everyone was speechless. Many covered their mouths at what they were doing to him. The students, now filled with hatred and despised the siblings, who were nervous. They could hear him saying, please, stop, don't hurt me. No, you useless thing, this is what happens to you for being born powerless. I wish you were never born. Yes, it's true, I considered you my Oni-chan, but now you're just my toy for fun. Then they went through more memories of what they did to him, how Rias threw balls of destruction all over his body, how Sona hit him with a water whip on his back. Both patriarchs of both houses watched sadly and in shock as their daughters heard Issei as a child and how he screamed at them to stop, but they didn't listen. I wish I could take my own life one day. But I didn't, despite what they did to me, I still let myself live. I thought that as time passed everything would change, but no, because Ryu and Issei lied to everyone, saying that I was a pervert and that I stole girls' underwear or that I gave information to rival schools, but no, I never was. I spoke with Drag and he gave me Ryu's memories so you can see the truth. It shows Ryu's memories. In the recording, Ryu tells Issei, hey, we have to tell everyone a lie because I want to see that useless guy suffer. I'll help you. I want to see him suffer too. After how he found it funny to see him being beaten, how everyone ignored him, including the student council and the teachers, all the demons and humans, couldn't believe how much he suffered without anyone helping him. The students' parents decided it was best to do something so that the teachers and the principal would go to prison. I suffered every day because of them and you all. Mickey and Guru Hyoudou hated me even though I wasn't their biological son. They told me I was the shame of the family, but I was never their son. They didn't think I wouldn't know I was adopted. You took me in from your doorstep when I was a baby. Because of you, I suffered a lot, but despite everything, I came to consider you my parents. But that love I still felt for you is gone. Now everyone was angry with the parents because they despised him despite not being their son. We faced many enemies, but the first was Rias or Phoenix, the one they betrothed to Rias, but they lost the first fight and Ryu and Issei beat me, telling me to sacrifice something from my body, so I gave my heart and my arms for the sacrifice. Tannin looked at Ryu and Issei with hatred, since he knew what happens when you sacrifice something that doesn't belong to the bearer. Tannin. Tell me you didn't do it. Issei, who was so nervous, said. Issei. Yes. Tannin slaps her so hard she falls into the well and spits blood. Tannin. They are a disgrace to all dragons. Every day after the sacrifice, my body underwent changes, and the first was my left eye. He opens his eyes and removes something, but upon opening them, they realize it's red with slit pupils. The women cried at the sight, especially the Hyoudou, but Ryu only became nervous that he would reveal the truth to everyone. Every day I vomited blood because I was undergoing so many changes, and my blood was changing to that of a dragon. I can't sleep because of the great pain I suffer. I scream in my room every day, and I thought someone would come and worry about me, but it wasn't like that. Many things happened, and we faced Gabriel, where I used the dragon's power within me and managed to defeat him. He demonstrates how he breathes fire and delivers a powerful blow to Gabriel's chest, then tears off his wings, but Ryu took that achievement from me and claimed to be the strongest, but he wasn't, since he never trained after Razor. Then there was Loki, where I created a seal to prevent his escape, but he stole it anyway, just like many other achievements. Then it shows Loki, Diodora, Kakao, Rizevum, Crumb Crash, Trixia, how he defeated every enemy, but Ryu said he was the hero. Now, seeing the truth, the leaders were shocked and looked at Ryu and Issei with hatred. The demons shouted arrogant. Bring Issei, the true hero. Get out, cowards. Useless. But he wasn't only despised by them, but also by the leaders. They said he would never be strong. They humiliated him and sent him on suicide missions just to satisfy their whims. It shows every time he went on missions and almost lost his life, how they took the credit, and now all the demons and beings of each faction demanded the true hero, and that the faction leaders be removed. The girls I once loved rejected me in the worst way, even though I gave so much for them, but they only believed in him and not in me. I'll just say this. No matter what I do, they won't be like before. They won't be the old leaders who were so powerful. Now they are just weak. They think they are leaders of factions, but they are not. They are just replacements for the real ones, even for God, who is dead. The news brought shock to everyone, since many were from the church, and now, knowing the truth, it would be chaos, since they would lose all knowledge of God. But it doesn't matter if God is dead. He is still in our hearts, in the hearts of all who believed in him. I hope that even though the girls live happily now with their supposed hero, don't come begging for my forgiveness, and don't go to the Elysian fields, since I don't want you to revive me again. It would be very selfish and hypocritical for you to revive me and seek my forgiveness. And you don't deserve it. He removed the bandages from his arms, revealing that both were covered in scales with spikes and claws, signifying that the dragonification process had already progressed. Now I must become a dragon, but I don't want to suffer anymore, so this is goodbye to everyone. I hope the children don't suffer what I suffered, and that their parents take better care of them than they did of me. Until next time. He began to cut off both arms, screaming in pain. Everyone was in shock, many covering their mouths and crying at his suffering. Murayama arrived, and the same conversation continued until the moment he died. Inside, he stood there, closing his eyes, when a blue light appeared beside him, and the laptop turned off. Everyone was in shock, including in the human world. They cried for the suffering he endured. Now, in the underworld, everything was chaos because they wanted the true hero back and for the leaders to be removed, since they didn't deserve to be called leaders after doing what they did to Issei. Sirzechs. What have we done? Chapter 2. Meeting room in the underworld. They all stood face to face with the council elders. Elder 1. Tell us, Great Sama, why do you wish to find young Issei so quickly? Red. The reason is simple, he is becoming a celestial dragon. Everyone was shocked, and many were frightened at the thought that he would want revenge for what they did to him. Sirzechs. Is he turning into a celestial dragon? Red. A long time ago, the same thing happened to Issei. Trixia went through the same thing, leaving everyone in shock since he was a dragon, the beast of the apocalypse. He was formerly a human, but he made a sacrifice out of his heart to save the entire dragon race, as they were on the verge of extinction due to humans and angels. Little by little, he began to undergo dragonification in his body, his power growing more and more, until he surpassed 3 celestial dragons combined in their best battles. But then he felt a darkness because he saw with his own eyes how his family was massacred. He decided to become an evil dragon that even surpassed Office and me, and that is how the beast of the apocalypse was born. Elder 2. So what will we do to prevent young Issei from turning against us? Red. It's impossible to locate him since I saw in that video that he was taken to another world. Everyone was surprised that he was taken to another world. Azazel. Like to another world. Red. What I mean is that I saw a blue light next to him when the explosion happened and they only found his arm, that means he was taken to a place I don't know. Auden. But what shall we do? Red. They can't do anything. If he manages to control the dragonification in his body, he can be saved, but if he doesn't, he will be guided by darkness and destruction like Trixia. He will be the new Trixia or the second one. Now everyone was terrified to learn that he would become the Trixia. Rias. But he wouldn't hurt us, he loves us. You're wrong about that, girl. Everyone turns around and sees a hooded figure in a corner. Sirzechs. Who are you? Don't worry, I don't come with bad intentions, on the contrary, I've come to talk about the young Issei. Issei. What do you know about Ani-chan? Haha, I'm surprised that after everything you did to him you still call him Ani-chan. Issei. Because he's my brother. Shut up. He was never your brother and you and your whole stupid family know it because I was the one who left him on your doorstep when he was a baby. Mickey and Guru didn't believe it. Mickey. What do you mean you broke up with him? And why? Because I hoped he had a good future, but I see I was wrong. You all beat him just for not having a simple power that's worthless. Demons aren't supposed to hurt humans, but I see some of you ignored those rules. The reason I took him home is because he's not from this world. Guru. What do you mean he isn't? He's my son. He is not your son. He comes from an ancient kingdom, from a different world, but almost like this one. His true family searched for him for years, but suffered a coup in a war of liberation. The boy's true parents died in that war, but his siblings did not. They are still alive, and now I've taken him to them so he can be better off instead of with you, who are so hypocritical that you'll believe he loves you, you who rejected him, even though he saved you more than 1,000 times, while the Alliance did nothing but give orders. You sit on your thrones and think you're gods, but you're not, because you're just replacements for the real ones. Sirzechs. Show more respect, for I have the power to kill you. But it was a bad mistake because the hooded figure was in front of him and grabbed him by the neck, releasing a very strong aura that surpassed the original Lucifer with all his power. You're nobody to say whether I can say it or not, since you humiliated him just the same. You think you're the original Demon King when you're not, and in reality you're a Siskin who fulfills his sister's whims. You're not a good brother. He releases Sirzechs, who begins to breathe heavily. You can't go after him because he'll never come back to you. He eliminated his feelings before the explosion happened because you rejected him in the worst way. Now the girls started to cry upon learning that he had eliminated his feelings for them. Sona. It's not true, he loves us, he still loves us in his heart. He doesn't love you anymore, he stopped loving you a long time ago. Now he should build his future in his real home and family, instead of being here with you. Besides, I'm getting the idea that if you find him, you'll give him everything that was his, like the girls, his achievements, luxuries and money, but he doesn't want that. He just wanted a simple thank you. Gabriel. Where is Issei-kun? I already said I will never tell you where he is, since you are nobody to say his location. You can make a machine if you want, but if you find him and he doesn't want to return, you must leave him in peace. Without further ado, I am leaving. Everyone now had a plan, and that was to find Issei. App 3. It was night in the kingdom of Adismata. There was a large city with medieval houses, but in the distance, or on a somewhat high hill, you could see an academy where, on the roof of one of the buildings, a young man with white hair was chasing a cat that had a stolen purse in its mouth. The boy, whose name was Lux Arcadia, former prince of the ancient empire, just like his sister. He didn't realize that up about 50 meters high a portal opened and out came none other than Issei, badly injured and with blood on his head and arms. He fell on his back because when he crossed the portal, he suffered a strong blow that left him very knocked out, but there was something strange about him, and that was that his arms were now completely dragon-like, and he had scales on his back and near his heart. Lux missteps and falls along with Issei. Down below where they fell was a very large spring with hot springs, but this bath was for girls, and there were 12 naked girls in front, about 13 to 16 years old, with black, brown and white hair. There was a color there like skin. The steam obscured the entire view. On the other side of the steam was a wall and a marble pillar, which was visible because it was illuminated by a lamp. The feeling of warm water soaking his pants. No matter how you look at it, it was definitely a bathroom. Lux. How did I get here? That question was going through Lux's mind. Lux. Lux lowered her gaze to avoid seeing the naked girls who, visibly surprised, were at the other side of the steam. Below Lux, who despite being clothed was in the water, was a young woman who was laughing. Unlike her slender body, her expression displayed a mature smile. Her smooth white skin turned red from the time she'd spent in the bath, and her cheeks were flushed. She's pretty. He could have said that if he'd been looking at her from a distance, but Lux couldn't speak, she couldn't move an inch, thanks to the sense of danger emanating from the young woman. Girl. Hey, pervert. Do you have anything you want to say before you die? Terrifying words escaped her adorable face, which was trying to force a smile. Well, it's not surprising she's angry. It's because he could see her. But he didn't notice. Inside that spacious bathroom, the towel covering her fell off and her naked body was exposed. Her lovely breasts swayed as they repelled the warm water, her collarbone protruded from the water, and the small curve of her hips, and even places beneath her silky stomach that were. His fate could be sealed with his next words. Lux, who was panicking, began to choose her words carefully. Lux. I should praise her first. In the past, while performing his daily duties as a waiter, he acquired the technique for complimenting a girl. Before he could make something up, the truth slipped out of his mouth. Lux. The thing is, you're cute, your whole body is like a girl's. No, even though you look young, you've got quite a bust, and it's very tempting. Wait, what the, I'm dead. What the hell am I saying to her? That wasn't what I was supposed to say. Who was it? Who taught me the wrong way to say it? That damn bar owner. Girl. Foo. The naked young woman, who heard those words, let out a sour laugh. For a moment she flashed a radiant smile, as if pleased, and then. Girl. How much longer do you plan to be on top of me, you idiot? She said in an angry voice. Pervert. At the same time, there were many screams from all the young women in the bathroom. The girls, with all their strength, began throwing anything they could find at Lux. Lux. I'm so sorry. Lux, who was panicking, tried to escape. Lux. How did I get into this? With tears in her eyes, Lux began to recall the events that occurred hours earlier with the bag she was carrying in her hand. But then one of the girls sees something that terrifies her. I. Everyone looked at her, but she was pointing at something in the water. Everyone turned around, and Lux, seeing what she was pointing at, was very, very scared. There was Issei, all injured, unconscious, unable to wake up. He was bleeding heavily from his head and arms. The blood that flowed from him began to spread throughout the tub, and Lux and the girl left out of fear. Lux. What happened to him? Was Lux's thought, since it was the first time he had seen someone like that, or was it not the first time? But they saw Issei move slightly, and purple and red lightning bolts emanating from his hands. All the girls, especially Lux, didn't understand what was happening to him until. Issei. I. Even while unconscious, Issei screamed so loudly that almost no one could cover their ears, but Lick saw something inexplicable. Issei's hair changed to a silvery white like his own, his skin became somewhat pale, his height decreased to his own, and his hair became disheveled, almost like his own. But seeing him like this, almost like himself, he began to remember something from when he was a child. Flashback. Lux was in the castle with her father and mother, but her sister was asleep beside her. Lux. Mom, Dad, I had a little brother. Upon hearing this, his parents simply looked at each other, and both nodded. Mother. You'll see light if you had a brother before. King. But we didn't expect anything to happen. Lux. What happened to my brother? His parents became sad remembering what happened and had no choice but to tell him what happened, and obviously he began to cry when he learned that his brother had been taken away. Lux. So they took him away because he was a prince. King. Son, it doesn't matter where he is because I know he will return here because his memories will gradually appear until he remembers us completely. Queen. It's true, it doesn't matter where he is because he will come back here, I promise you that. Then flashback. I also remember that his parents told him he had a kind of scar with an X on his cheek. And if a scar was forming on his left cheek, then something else happened to his head. 2 small dragon horns sprouted and he began to move violently, screaming and screaming, but subdued, looking like a beast. Then 5 or 4 swords appeared unexpectedly, but they stuck in the ground around him, and he looked evil. From his 2 arms came 2 gloves, one black with red and one gold with red. He falls again conscious, and the gloves disappear but not the swords. The girls and the young silver-haired man were unconscious, but Lux looked at him as if she knew him. The next morning Lux found himself in one of the academy's dungeons because he was thinking that she had entered to steal or something. Lux. Damn it. Is anyone there? Please listen to me. I didn't come in by accident. I was just chasing a cat. Let me see the boy. But there was no one there, their things were on a table, as were 2 swords, one blue and white and the other black and red. Then the door dares to fight a girl with long sky blue hair, she was very thin, she had no voice, no bust in her breasts, but she was very pretty. Lux. Hey, love, get me out of here. I want to go see that boy. The girl ignored him, so she went over to the table where their swords were and took the black one. Is this sword yours? Lux turns away. The girl looked at it seriously and assumed it was his because 5 years ago they suffered a coup in that kingdom where a guy in black and red armor appeared out of nowhere and they called him the Black Hero. Then the door bursts open and a girl with long brown hair enters. Lucifer, let me check the IP address they need in the infirmary. That boy is waking up but something is wrong with him. We need your help. Ah, wow, girl named Lucifer looked at Lux and then went inside to free him. Then Lux walked through the hallways, listening to the murmurs of all the girls and assumed it was an all-girls school. Did you hear that a boy appeared last night and that another boy also came out? Yes, I heard about it and they told me that the internment is next Saturday and that he has parts of his body that look like those of a dragon. Partly yes, partly because he grew 2 horns on his head and his arms look like scales or claws. They told us to go to the infirmary. They're trying to create a cure for it. Lux went directly to where his sister, named Arcadia, was. She had roughly the same hair color as him, but she was short, only reaching his shoulders. She was thin but very sweet. Irie. Good heavens, what are you doing, Nai-san? I'm shocked. The academy's reception area. As expected of an academy where the children of nobles gather, in that place that gave an impression of the upper class, surrounded by its furniture and furnishings, 2 students were present. One was a calm girl with black hair. The other girl had the same silver hair and a necklace identical to Lux's. Her graceful and composed demeanor, like an upper-class doll, made her appear more mature than her older brother, Lux. Lux. I apologize for many things, Irie. First of all, Lux apologized to the girl, Arcadia, who is his younger sister. Irie, seeing that, shrugged her shoulders with a sigh, then looked at the girl next to her. Irie. She's my roommate. Her name is, can I say it? Yes. I'm a first-year Nakuto leaflet. The girl, who appeared calm, bowed her head gently and looked at Lux. Lux. It's a pleasure, sorry about last night, Irie, this isn't the time for this, we need to go to the infirmary. Irie. Can you tell me the reason, Nai-san? Lux. That boy seems familiar to me, I don't know exactly how to tell you, but I think he's our brother. Irie, upon hearing that, lowered her gaze, for at night, in every dream, she could see herself and witness that man taking her older brother away. Irie. Nissan was kidnapped, that was 15 years ago. How can you remember that? He left. Lux. That's not true. Our mother said he would return. His memories are coming back little by little and she said he would come to us or we would come to him. I think that boy is our brother. Please believe me. If not, let's go see him yourself. Irie sighed, as she also wanted to meet her older brother. The prisms pointed towards the infirmary, which was on the other side of the academy. Outside there were many girls outside. But there was a screen part that could see what was happening to the subject, or rather the boy, who was lying on one of the stretchers, but he was unconscious. The blood that was on his head was gone, but you could see his horns. His arms were now like those of a dragon and continued to expand. Moreover, the veins in his neck became thicker and blacker, indicating that the dragonification process was accelerating. Lux and Irie entered the infirmary and see some girls that Irie knew perfectly well. But Lux saw how the blonde-haired, red-eyed girl looked at him angrily. Lux. Excuse me, why are you looking at me like that? Girl. You say that to me as if I were a simple pervert. Lux started cutting. How come they'll call him at night? Then he remembered that she was the same girl who had fallen on top of him. Lux. You're the girl from yesterday, aren't you? Girl. That's right, pervert. My name is Lucifer, the princess of the new empire, former Prince Lux Arcadia. Lux, she wasn't a prince. He had a black necklace with red gems, just like his sister. Lucifer. Well, I can't get angry with you right now. We have a complication here, and it's that boy. They saw through the glass Issei who was moving a little because maybe he was having a strange dream. Lux. They've heard something about him. Lucifer. We investigated his blood, we don't know the results yet, but we've seen some things about him. He has scars all over his body, bruises, and some visible ribs. Also, his eyes are turning red like dinner, and whatever is happening is consuming him from the inside, and he's undergoing an unexpected change. Lux. But then what can I do with those swords? Where are the swords? Lucifer. The swords are on the side. There were the 5 swords with their sheaths and everything, but they could see nothing more understandable and terrifying than the others. And it gave off a strange aura. Lucifer. We discovered that they are drag rides. But these are different from all the others. We don't know exactly what kind of swords they are or what dragon soul they possess. Then the alarm sound, they turn around and see him starting to move violently. His vital signs were skyrocketing, the concentration of energy was rising too high, they didn't know what was happening until they saw that he started to emit many rays from his entire body, purple, black, red and gold. He began to float a little, everything around him began to tear apart, in addition to some things floating, the lamps flickered too much. They didn't understand what was happening. Even the ground began to crack. So far. Brew. It began to roar like a creature, the windows were destroyed, everyone covered their ears because of the countless roars it was unleashing. Lux tried to go, but something prevented him, an aura began to unleash itself, the aura felt heavy and gave off pure death and thirst for blood and revenge. Issei suddenly opens his eyes, and they reveal that they were fighting in an overly bright crimson red, from his back two enormous dragon wings that looked creepy. More and more lightning bolts appeared until it was a powerful roar that ended by firing a huge purple lightning bolt, with black, white and red. The lightning bolt ended up destroying the roof of the infirmary, reaching a height of 10,000 meters. Everyone in the kingdom viewed the ruling with concern, and many were frightened, thinking it was a new enemy. In the infirmary, he kept screaming and screaming until someone came in holding a syringe or something like that, and that was Lucifer, who with very fast speed ended up sticking the syringe in his chest right where his heart was. Issei began to calm down little by little. The lightning began to disappear from the sky and vanished completely. The things that were in the infirmary stopped floating and fell. The aura that had been unleashed disappeared, the dragon scales and arms disappeared completely, but the scales that were on his chest were not where it had all started. Lux. What did you inject him with? Lucifer. What is an antidote for what he was going through? Luckily it stopped being like that. You don't get scales, but even going through changes in him. What I don't know is that you came with the horns, they were still there but hidden. Irie began to walk over the pieces of broken glass with some timidity. She approached the boy who was on the bed, she looked at him intently from head to toe, but she kept looking at his left cheek. When she saw that, she began to shed tears that were of happiness and sadness. Like Lux, all the girls didn't understand why they were crying. Lux and Irie had an X on her cheek, just like her older brothers. Lux Irie. Nai-san Ani-chan. Issei began to move a little until he opened his eyes, revealing that they were silver like Lux's. He started looking around, but when he focused his gaze on the two of them, he began to move his lips as if he were trembling, and tears began to flow. Issei. H brothers. Lux and Irie. Nai-san Ani-chan. They both throw themselves on top of him, hugging him and crying. He accepts the hug and begins to stroke their heads, and upon feeling the contact they begin to cry as if they were children who had lost something precious. Hap 4. Issei was now finally with his brothers, his true brothers and his family. They were still crying in the arms of their lost brother who disappeared or was kidnapped when he was a baby. I spent a few minutes with them and they separated. On their faces there was joy and sadness. Issei. Brothers. Lux. It's good to see you again, brother. Irie. It's a pleasure to see you again, Ani-chan, she said, blushing because her brother was very handsome. Issei. Is something wrong with you? Lux. Relax, brother. It's just that you look really handsome, like me. You can even see yourself in the mirror. Issei did stop and look in the mirror, and indeed he looked completely different. Issei. Is this my true appearance? Lux. I think so, but what happened to you when you arrived here? You were very injured. Issei lowers his gaze and decides not to say anything. Issei. I don't want to remember it. But then the blonde girl approaches them. Lucifer. Excuse me, who are you? Issei. It's a pleasure, my name is Issei Arcadia, I think. Lucifer. Well, if you're in Arcadia, you must wear this. He wears a necklace identical to that of his two brothers. Issei. Sorry, I can't wear that. The pressure of it being on clear, possibly 101, I can't wear that because it reminds me of something. Lucifer was furious, saying that she put it on by force, but then the collar was destroyed by a strong shock to her neck. And the fragments on the ground, but these begin to levitate until they transform into a black ring with a red gem. Issei puts on the ring and adjusts it. Lucifer. Well, we won't put a necklace on you or anything, but it's meant to symbolize that you are an ex-prince. Issei. Ex-prince. What we were, princes. So what? Lucifer. The ancient empire. Where your family comes from was destroyed and your parents were killed. I am Lucifer, the princess of the new empire. Issei heard that his real parents died because of a murder. He lowered his gaze, and tears could be seen running down his cheeks. Lux and Irie approach him, and the embers in them tell him to let go of everything he has, and he does. He starts to cry for losing his real parents. He fell asleep from crying so much. And then the princess decided to do something while he was asleep, so she ordered the headmistress to gather all the students in a field so they could see his memories and find out what happened to him. Lux and Irie didn't get along so well at first, but it wasn't long before her brother accepted her injuries as she wanted to know what had happened to him. It wasn't normal for him to have so many wounds and so much power that he even grew 2 horns. On the battlefield where they were in training, there were around 250 female students aged 13 to 16, then above there were 12, but in some kind of humanoid machines. Those machines were responsible for creating an impenetrable barrier. The machines were called drag rides. What do you do? What's your name? Does the soul of a mythological or cursed dragon matter? Director. It's a pleasure to see you, my students. Something inexplicable happened today. We discovered that the third son of the ancient empire has appeared. They were all shocked to learn that there was a third child. Some knew that the queen of the ancient empire had had another son, but he was kidnapped as a baby. Director. And now we discover that this prince has immense power within him, besides having too many wounds, and that's why the only one who created the princess was to build a machine to see his memories. Lucifer approaches with a kind of helmet which she places on Issei's head, and images appear all around the field. They could see how happy he was with the supposed siblings where he was staying, but when Rias and Sona appeared, everything changed. They saw how he was mistreated simply for not having power, and even though he wasn't their son, they still hated him. He was beaten relentlessly, and they spread various lies about him being a pervert and stealing information. The girls covered their mouths because his screams when he was beaten hurt them deeply, including his siblings, since they had never seen anything like it. Irie started to cry when she saw her brother being mistreated simply for having no power. Lux was furious to see what they did to his brother, then they saw when Ryu ordered him to sacrifice a part of his body. He gave his heart and also his 2 arms, causing his body to begin to undergo dragonification, and now everyone understood why he had horns and scales, because he was becoming a dragon. They saw all the feats he did, the battles he had, the victories, but it was all taken away by his stepbrother, who said that he was just a nuisance and that he helped the enemy. He was despised by the leaders of the girls he fell in love with. They all looked at him with hatred and said horrible things to him when he confessed his feelings to them. But they all humiliated him and told him that she would never be with him. They even fought the battle against the beast of the apocalypse. They were all impressed to learn that there is a creature with the power to destroy the whole world and that there is a seal to prevent it from coming out again. But then the sisters didn't take the secret and said that he was the one who unleashed the beast, but she simply said, "No, I never released any other type of armor. I only pretended to be brave, but in reality, I was a fraud." They could see how he was suffering. I invite you to see that he was transforming into a dragon. How he was vomiting blood, how he was suffering, how he began to undergo changes, and how his heart hurt a lot. It should be said that all the women who were crying when they saw all that he suffered in that world promised to take care of him and mend his heart. As the days passed, the occult club stopped there. The video showed the director crying, Lux too. Look, she had her fists closed, clenched so tightly that blood started to come out. Irie was being comforted by her companion who had a sad look on her face seeing her friend like that. When it all ended, everyone left and started writing letters for Issei when he woke up. But in his mind he was face to face with 2 gigantic dragons that surpassed Great Red. We have waited 18 years for you to awaken your power, and you have finally done so. Pap 5. Issei stood face to face with 2 extremely powerful deities. This being was 160 meters tall, and his power surpassed that of God or even more. They were extremely powerful beings, since I also measured around 230, and their power was unmatched. It was infinite. Issei. Who are you? 1. I am the supreme evil dragon god of death. 2. And I am Christus, supreme dragon god. Both. And you are our bearer. Issei. What am I? Christus. What you heard, you are our bearer, which means that you are the bearer of the 2 most powerful dragon gods. The death. And that makes you a dragon god too. Issei. It's difficult to process since I am the exporter of 2 of the most powerful deities of all time, who can surpass even the biblical god or perhaps even more. The death. Yes, it must be surprising, although you also have another one, but this one is asleep and cannot awaken yet. But even you have created another dragon inside you, and it is very powerful. However, it cannot awaken. Little by little, until you have a great eternal feeling, it will awaken and become your companion. Christus. Exactly, although I'm surprised that you're becoming a glutton, it must be because you sacrificed something of yourself, isn't it? Issei. Yes, I sacrificed my heart and some parts of my body. Why? Christus. Well, we've slowed down the dragonification in you, but little by little you're transforming into a dragon. In a few months you'll be a full dragon. The death. But if you want our power you must train very hard, even though you have defeated the beast of the apocalypse yourself, it does not make you the strongest being all lost a great amount of energy barely, and then kind awaken a percentage of your power or our power, and that was equivalent to a celestial dragon. Issei was now truly terrified, as he had only released a percentage of his power, equivalent to that of a celestial dragon, and he couldn't even imagine how much his full power would be. Issei. And how strong are they with all their power? Rias. Well, we are capable of destroying the entire universe, but we threw ourselves out because our power was too great and perhaps we could destroy the entire universe. So, to keep you safe, we decided to transform into sacred gear. I've gone with wielders, but some managed to withstand our power and others didn't because they weren't worthy enough. But one day, someone appeared saying that he was going to bring you to the world where you suffered. Issei. How did someone bring me into this world? The death. If a person took you to that place hoping that maybe you would have a peaceful life, but I see that he was wrong, before he left I put us in you, since you were a worthy bear. Rias. In short, you must wake up, partner, and you must train very hard to reach the balance breaker. Issei. Yes, in the midst of a very hard time to become the most powerful dragon god of all, one who surpasses all the gods, I promise you that. Both. Let's hope so. Hap 6. Issei. Our brother is going to fight. Irie. That's right, Ani-chan Lisashert-sama, I challenge you to a duel after what happened in the bathroom. Issei. Luckily I was unconscious when I fell and I didn't want to see all these naked girls. Irie. That doesn't matter, but what kind of drag rides do you have since it has 5 swords? Issei. The swords, well, I don't know what kind they are since they came with me or appeared out of nowhere. Irie. It's okay, it doesn't matter. On the battlefield. Very well, the duel between the first princess of the new kingdom, Lisashert, and the 7th prince of the old kingdom, Lux, is about to begin. At the same time as the teacher's voice, who was also acting as referee, spoke, the stage erupted in cheers and furious excitement. The drag ride training field, located on the school grounds, was enclosed by a circular stone wall. Inside, a wide ring extended across a mound. In the center, Lisashert and Lux stood facing each other. The central ring was low, its shape characterized by its rising edges, reminiscent of the Colosseums of old. Sturdy protective barriers were deployed in the spectator area and several drag knights constantly created barriers to protect the students, so the audience didn't have to worry about being caught in the battle. As Lux looked around, he noticed that not only were there students, but several instructors had also gathered to watch this duel, which was initially private. Lux. I wonder why so many people gathered under the gaze of a large number of school members. I see that many of them have too much free time. He was selfishly made the star of an incredible spectacle, but Lisashert. Do you want to know the reason? Lux Arcadia. The reason I challenged you to a duel. Facing Lux, Lisashert smiled fearlessly. Neither of them had equipped their respective drag ride. Wearing dress gear, a body-hugging outfit used to equip a drag ride, they stood facing each other in the ring. Issei and his sister were watching everything from the stands. Issei. Something about her doesn't sit right with me. Once the preparations for the encounter were complete, they drew their sword devices at the same time the referee confirmed the mutual connection with their drag rides. The duel would soon begin. The rules would be the same as those used for the tournament held in the capital. Lux. Is it because I'm the prince of the old empire? He asked the princess before him. The old empire maintained a 100-year tyranny, forcing its people to follow its customs and implementing a system of androcracy. The princess of the new kingdom might want to eliminate the fallen prince, a survivor of that empire. Gender and nation. A duel that encompassed both. From a spectator's point of view, there's nothing more appealing than this. But Lisashert. I'll tell you if you defeat me. Lux was very worried about this. Was that really all it was about? Lisashert was certainly a belligerent girl. But after falling in the bathroom and pushing her, the look she gave her, it wasn't just one of embarrassment. Lux. Could I confirm something before we start fighting? Lisashert. What? Did you get scared? It would be pathetic if you begged for your life at this point. Lux. Beg for my life? Are you really trying to kill me? That's not what I want to talk about. If it ends in a draw, could we pretend this duel never happened? A moment of silence. Suddenly, the atmosphere around Lisashert changed. Issei facepalmed at what his brother Lisashert had said. Fufufu. Is it my imagination? With Lux's question, Lisashert smoothed her honey-colored bangs and smiled. We've come this far, and I feel like I'm listening to someone talking in their sleep. Lux. I'm not talking in my sleep, really. Lisashert. I see. Then that's good. Lisashert frowned and gripped the hilt of her sword device. Lisashert. If you can say that despite knowing who I am, then it's a good thing. Her piercing gaze sent chills down Lux's spine. That girl is no ordinary princess contender. Lux, prepare for the connection. At the same time, the referee emphasized to Lux. Lux reluctantly drew her sword device. Of its 2 different colored sheaths, she took the white one. Lux. Come, mark of the winged dragon, symbol of power. Obey my sword and fly. Wyvern. As he held the button on the hilt, he shouted. It was the password to summon a dragon machine before the user. The silver lines on the sword's blade, which recognized the contractor's voice, glowed blue. Cyan. Particles of light gathered in front of Lux, and a dragon machine appeared. Connect on. At the same time he murmured, the armor instantly opened and covered his body. His head, both arms, shoulders, waist, legs, and wings merged. The dress gear, also recovered from the ruins, channeled energy from the force core and protected the equipped parts, while simultaneously generating a powerful barrier, unlike any ordinary barrier, on their surface. The dragon-like armor merged with Lux, transforming him into a drag knight twice the height of a normal person. Ancient weapons recovered from the ruins. That power, which concealed a vast military force, was quickly hidden due to immense pressure from the opposition. Lucifer. Is the other sword just decorative? Lux Arcadia. At that moment, Lux's eyes widened. Lucifer's body was covered with a red dragon machine, one he had never seen before. Its appearance was completely different from the three types of dragon machines known as general-purpose machines. Aerial machines, wyvern, ground machines, worm, and customizable machines, drake. A dragon machine much larger than Lux's appeared before him. Lucifer. Personal unit of the royal family of the New Kingdom. Divine drag ride Tiamat. This dragon machine is on a different level than any you know. Lux. Divine drag ride. They are a rare species of drag ride, and their existence has been confirmed by only a few existing specimens. The performance of its frame was considerably superior to that of general-purpose dragon machines. At the same time, the consumption of both spiritual and physical energy, as well as the processing difficulty, were on another level. Possession of a divine drag ride, which one could easily die trying to control, was heavily restricted by the New Kingdom and only permitted to those with skills commensurate with the requirements. In other words, being able to use one was irrefutable proof of talent and tireless effort. Nevertheless, with that fact in mind, Lux remained calm. Everything is fine. I still have a chance. Lux's wyvern was a basic general-purpose model, but its parts and armaments had been remodeled with special emphasis on defense. In the capital, the skill of the one called the weakest undefeated, who had managed the most practiced battles without being defeated, was evident. Despite having a divine drag ride as an opponent, he should be able to resist somehow. The spectators, previously excited, were now silent. The sharp clang of the bell echoed across the field, shattering the tense atmosphere. Begin the training match. At the same moment the referee's voice rang out, the two drag rides began to move. Lucifer, who wore Tiamat, was the first to take flight. After takeoff, the red dragon machine, bearing the name of a deity and inherited from the ruins, soared to a great height. She then equipped the breath gun, the massive weapon on her right arm, a weapon unique to her. Lux drew his dragon machine sword and tried to pursue Lucifer through the air with his wyvern, which also possessed the ability to fly, but when he saw her equip the breath gun, he stopped mid-air. Lux. Impossible. Does she plan to use it right away? Breath gun, so to speak, is the primary weapon that emulates the powerful flames of a dragon. A high-temperature, high-powered blast that charges the force core's energy and releases it. It has enough power to destroy a building. However, there was a delay between charging the blast and, to use a redundant phrase, firing it, which gave enough time for an evasive maneuver. In defensive terms, that was a weakness. Lux had put a safe distance that allowed him to dodge the blast. Opening himself up in a one-on-one fight wasn't something one should resort to so quickly, but Lucifer. Fufufu, as if she had read Lux's intentions, Lucifer laughed. Then, the cannon that had been aimed at Lux abruptly changed its target and veered off in the surrounding area. Lux. Boom. He fired. A high-temperature light projectile was fired from the sky and struck the ring on the ground. But, obviously, it wasn't aimed at Lux, so as long as he didn't move from his position, he wouldn't be affected. Was it an attempted threat or just a warm-up? Due to Lucifer's incomprehensible actions, Lux's body stiffened. At that moment Lucifer, who was high above, looked at Lux and made a gesture with her mouth. In her right hand was the cannon she had just fired. And in her left hand she held the hilt of the sword device. The sword device was one of the means to mentally operate the dragon machine and its weapons, in other words Lux. What? At the same time, Lux felt a great impact, similar to that of a large hammer, ripple across his side. He was sent flying along with the wyvern. In other words, Lux was pushed into the trajectory of the projectile that Lucifer had deliberately deflected. Lucifer. What an unavoidable move that took him by surprise. Even though Lux's wyvern armor was relatively resistant, the duel would end with a single shot if he were to receive the main weapon's attack at full power. Lux immediately interposed his sword to use it as a shield to protect himself from the barrage. I drew a significant amount of energy from the force core and imbued it into the sword. Originally, it was an ability that allowed me to amplify destructive power, but by doing this, I could block the bombardment and simultaneously move out of its path. Lux. Objects flew at high speed toward their target, Lux, who was spinning in the air. As she waved her partially destroyed sword and quickly tried to attack the 4 flying objects, they stopped and returned to Lucifer. Issei. What was Lux? That Lucifer. You're better than I thought. She said, looking at Lux and smiling fearlessly. 4 objects were flying near her. Lucifer. I never expected you to escape my attack with just a sword. It truly wounds my pride. Should I say what was expected of the weakest undefeated? Lux. What did you just? With his gaze fixed on Lucifer, Lux began to sweat. Lucifer. What's wrong? Your sister probably told you about my weaponry, didn't she? Lux. Why yes, that's true, but… Special weaponry that only a divine drag ride could use. Lux had heard from Issei about the special airborne fortress weaponry that Tiamat used. They were long-range weapons consisting of small aerodynamic metals that possessed their own propulsive force. Usually, all 4 were equipped on the frame. And when the dragon machine took off, the units enjoyed freedom of movement and could inflict direct hits on the enemy. Obviously, Lux tried to be cautious because of that, but no matter what, that way of using them right after the duel's start signal, Lucifer threw the airborne fortress aside as she lifted off, so Lux wouldn't notice. Furthermore, she aimed the breath gun at Lux. The divine drag ride surpasses general-purpose dragon machines in terms of both effectiveness and efficiency. While someone is targeted with their primary weapon, they wouldn't be able to detect the other attack. Since she had deflected her target and fired, drawing Lux's attention to her right side, she launched the airborne fortress, which had taken a detour to the left and thus escaped Lux's field of vision. Then, she pushed him into the path of her main weapon's full power blast and attacked. The one-shot, one-kill strategy. A demon with utterly ruthless tactics. What was most terrifying of all was that there was no pause between these actions. No matter how brilliant the strategies, as long as there was any suspicious movement, they could be perceived and evaded. But even in the capital, Lux had never fought anyone like her. Issei. Is she really a princess of the new kingdom? That girl Lucifer. Prince of the old empire, Lux Arcadia. As Lux regained her balance, Lucifer's voice could be heard. Lucifer. Honestly, I underestimated you. I take it back. You're not bad. Even if only a little, I'm impressed. That's why I'll take this opportunity to say so. It would be good if you removed that wyvern that's about to break and used that other sword device. It was a tone of voice that contained a certain appreciation and was much kinder. A small commotion arose in the spectator area. Lucifer. I don't know what kind of drag ride it is, but it should be better than that one that's partially destroyed. Show me your strength. Lux. So, could I say one thing? Because of Lucifer's words, Lux raised his gaze. The sword that was Lux's main weapon was partially destroyed and the armor had weakened, so he couldn't create a complete defensive barrier. The weaponry his wyvern possessed at that moment was reduced to a breath gun for long-range combat, 3 machine dragon claw blades, daggers, for melee combat that could also be used as projectiles, and finally a wire tail for mid-range combat. None of those weapons could pierce Tiamat's barrier and thick armor. But Lux. I'm sorry. I can't use this sword. Even so, Lux said calmly, in that case, if we reach a tie, could we make a deal regarding this matter? To be honest, I'm very busy with other work. I'm sorry about the bathroom. I apologize. Lucifer's brows furrowed at Lux's words. Not only were her cheeks flushed, but her face turned red and the dragon machine's entire body trembled. Lux was obviously serious, but she probably thought she was being underestimated. Oh, I see. Sounds like you're not an ordinary guy, but a huge idiot. Suddenly, Lucifer pointed her sword at the sky and shouted, Tiamat. Reveal your true nature. At the same time as her shout, a loud noise echoed throughout the spectator area. Immediately afterward, a light surrounded Tiamat and something was summoned. It was an auxiliary weapon whose use he avoided since the strain it placed on his body was too great. It was twice as large as the previous one and was connected to Tiamat's right shoulder and right arm. Issei. That. Two-wire tail. Apparently, it's a kind of cable located on the back of the drag ride. A huge device with 7 cannons. The goddess Tiamat not only spawned an army of demons and controlled them, she also transformed herself into a 7-headed dragon. Lux had only heard about this weapon called the 7-headed dragon from Issei, but Lucifer. Are you good at dancing? Lux Arcadia. Absolute confidence and an intimidating smile. Lucifer raised her sword device and said in an elegant voice, my dance is a bit rough. Entertain me, prince. Around her, the number of airborne fortress, previously 4, quadrupled to 16 weapons floating in the air. Apparently, these weapons were also transferred by the sword device. Logically speaking, the physical strain and processing difficulty should increase in proportion to the number of weapons, but in contrast, Lux's equipment was extremely weak. Their aerial performance was also inferior, and there was an overwhelming difference in military power. But precisely for this reason Lux sensed a chance of victory. Lux. Please wait a minute. Princess Lysichard. Are you trying to assassinate your opponent? If you go so far as to use Tiamat's auxiliary weaponry, no matter how much you hold back, it's still too much for a training match. The instructors responsible for monitoring her tried to stop her, but Lysichard said, that's what they say, but do you want to give up? Lux, who was floating in the sky, answered clearly, though briefly, no, I don't want to. Lysichard. Then perish on this spot. With the pride of the ancient empire. As she shouted, Lysichard gripped her sword device. At that moment, the weapons floating around her all 16 airborne fortress began attacking simultaneously. Part 2 Lux and Hyoudou, from the spectator area, watched a training match, which began with an aggressive attack from Lysichard. Oops. This is terrible. We must quickly tell the master and stop her. As expected, even Tilfer, a girl who usually has a relaxed attitude, said in a panic. Sheris, Tilfer and Hyoudou, although there was only a year difference between them at the academy, were known as the Triad, and they were also childhood friends. Third-year student Sheris, whose father had long served as the vice commander of the New Kingdom's army, enjoyed both studying and playing. Sheris, in particular, possessed a strong sense of justice and had voluntarily joined the paramilitary faction. Nearly 5 years had passed since the new empire was established. Although the androcracy system gradually disappeared, people's mindsets couldn't be changed so quickly. There were even those who opposed the new government. The mistreatment of women and the riots were endless. For this reason, she bore the honor of protecting the female students from the male aggressors who occasionally appeared at the academy, but Lysichard. To think that such a fight could even happen. By now, they had realized that the matter had escalated to such proportions because of them. For this reason, the three girls felt remorseful. In the end, the three girls had to write a letter of apology for destroying the girls' dormitory with their drag rides, as they had gone too far. I'm sorry, Lux-kun. At this rate, Lux wasn't just going to lose, worse, he could die. If Lysichard used Tiamat, the students, who only had general-purpose dragon machines, wouldn't be a match for her. It was the first time she'd been seen going so far as to transfer auxiliary weaponry. The countless units flying freely within the field were airborne fortresses. The main weapon had already been charged and could be fired if Lux stopped moving for even a second. The seven-headed dragon. There was no way to go against those two overwhelming powers with a simple general-purpose dragon machine, the Wyvern. Irie. You don't need to worry. Sheris-senpai. Suddenly, Lux's younger sister, who was standing next to Sheris, exclaimed Irie. Regarding that incident, that was something Nai-san did selfishly. Those are the consequences of his actions. He has a strange sense of justice, which is why he always gets involved in unnecessary trouble. At first glance, he seems like a sensitive person, but he's really a soft-hearted fool. There's nothing that can be done. With a rather serious expression, not even a smile, Irie continued speaking indifferently. You're unexpectedly an interesting girl, aren't you? When Sheris smiled ironically at her indifference, Irie. But, even for the useless Nai-san, there is only one thing I must admit. He has several good sides. Issei was surprised by his brother. Irie said that gently and pointed to the center of the ring. Her smile betrayed a hint of pride. That when Sheris asked, her attention focused on the ring, it was accompanied by a loud noise. Once he's decided on something, he'll see it through to the end. Part 3 A violent whirlwind formed within the training field. After being launched, airborne fortress attacked. Lux narrowly dodged every attack from the 16 units, including their auxiliary weaponry. Anxiety began to show on Lysichard's face as she controlled the devices with the movements of the sword device in her left hand. Although the fight was one-sided, she desperately held back her voice, not saying why. Not a single one of the airborne fortress units she was manipulating had been destroyed. Lux was only dodging and/or repelling them using only the partially destroyed sword, the daggers, the breath gun, and the wire tail. These were all standard dragon machine weapons, but Lux skillfully used them to defend against the attacks. Of course, it wasn't as if she managed to repel them all. In fact, Lux's armor was gradually weakening, and even the barrier she had recently deployed was running out of energy. The remaining weapons were also weakening from being used as a shield to repel the airborne fortress's attacks. Even so, she showed no signs of giving up. So that's why they call him the weakest undefeated. Nearly 5 minutes had passed since Lysichard began her attack. No, 5 minutes had already passed. It should be impossible for a general-purpose dragon machine to withstand even a couple of seconds against a divine drag ride attacking at full power. This fact, beyond Lysichard's comprehension, managed to cloud her tactical judgment. She glanced briefly at the large clock in the academy and saw the hands. 3 minutes remained in the match, but at this rate, Lysichard's stamina would run out before time ran out. Lysichard-sama. A student's voice reached Lysichard, who was speechless. During the brief moment she was distracted by thought, she noticed a dagger thrown by Lux approaching. It was too late to dodge it. Lysichard. Don't underestimate me. At the same time that Lysichard swung her sword device, the dagger changed trajectory as if pushed by an invisible force and finally fell to the ground. The moment Lux's face changed due to the mysterious phenomenon, Lysichard inhaled. Lysichard. Ha. Very well, weakest undefeated one. To express my respect for your skill, allow me to show you. The divine garment of my Tiamat, that. Divine garment. Upon hearing that, Lux stiffened for a moment. Bow down in the name of God. Heavenly voice at the same time, and in a loud voice, Lysichard again pointed her sword device at Lux. The wyvern that had been flying was now lying on the ground. The wyvern's armored leg was serving as a support, preventing it from sinking. Lux. Is this divine attire is an ability possessed only by divine drag rides. It is said to be an exclusive ability of theirs, and the true nature of each drag ride is still unknown. From the information he had heard from Issei, this wasn't so unknown. Judging by the enormous pressure placed on Lux's body and his drag ride, in addition to the dagger phenomenon, it could be inferred that Tiamat's divine attire controlled gravity. However, by the time he realized this, he was already in checkmate. The airborne fortress was spinning around Lux like a tornado, blocking any escape route. Lysichard. It's over. Prince fallen. Tiamat's auxiliary weaponry, the massive cannon attached to her shoulder and right arm, 7 heads, was pointed at Lux. To think she'd even wear the divine robe. I have no choice, I must do it. Lux instantly decided to do something at that moment. Kaboom. Along with that sound, Lysichard, who was wearing Tiamat, violently leaned to one side. Almost simultaneously, the force that had been holding Lux and her wyvern immobilized dissipated. Lysichard was unable to comprehend what had happened and stared at the dragon machine surrounding her body. This is bad. Compared to general-purpose dragon machines, it wasn't just the processing difficulty and the immense burden exerted by the divine drag ride that were superior. There was also a great danger. The machine could go out of control and berserk. The method for operating a drag ride is divided into 2 types. The first involves moving the body while wearing the armor, allowing the machine to process the movements. The second involves mentally controlling it through the sword device. Generally, skillful use of these 2 methods allows control of a dragon machine, but under extreme pressure and fatigue, the user's timing could be off, and the dragon machine could act beyond what is intended. In other words, it would go berserk. If he didn't fix the situation quickly, it could be dangerous for both parties. When Lux saw this, he used the full power of the wyvern and flew toward her. As something like this, Lysichard's fatigue and agitation were clearly visible on her face. However, she immediately changed her expression. Lysichard swiftly gripped her sword device and focused on a single thought. The 16 airborne fortresses flying around Lux lost their momentum and plummeted to the ground, severing her control. She concentrated her consciousness and power, previously distributed among her weapons, and chose a single point to focus all that destructive force. All the energy gathered into the main armament, the 7th head's Lysichard. As if I were going to lose. At the same time, with a deafening scream, she regained control of Tiamat. Lux rose and aimed her sword. Lysichard, meanwhile, determined the target before her. The battle had reached its climax. At that moment an incident that shouldn't have happened did. Lux. This sound is piercing the clouds, the roar of a beast descended. From the highest point of the training field, an inhuman intruder interrupted. The Drag Knight's enemies aren't just other Drag Knights. No, more importantly, humanity's natural enemy, and the one they must be most wary of, has just entered this world. It's a mysterious mythical beast that occasionally emerges from the ruins, the very same ruins where the drag rides were discovered 10 years ago. Countless species exist, and they are said to attack indiscriminately any animal or human that crosses their path. What sets them apart from beasts is their immense power, their mysterious way of life, and the special abilities they possess. For this reason, most of the powerful nations erected walls, a barrier, and a fortress city near the ruins, and deployed drag knights as a precaution against unexpected events. These fortress cities, located between the capital and the ruins, served as a defense. But Lux. Why did an abyss appear in a place like this? Issei. That's a gargoyle-type monster like the ones in the books. Why didn't the alarm go off? Teacher. Everyone, calm down. Lower-level students, do not use your sword devices. Take cover in an orderly fashion inside the academy building. The screams of the students could be heard from the spectator area. Aside from the Drag Knight officer candidates, there were very few students with any combat experience. Although the abyss rarely appeared, they were far stronger than the Drag Knights. What's more, since it must have flown from the ruins located dozens of kilometers away from the fortress city, a communication should have been received from the wall. Furthermore, if the drag rides had been deployed to a crowded area, the spectator area, in this case the response would inevitably have been delayed due to the event. If a wild beast were to suddenly appear in a city, there wouldn't be time to reload a weapon, given that the beast was right in front of you. Even the 8 Drag Knight students who had been mobilized to reinforce the spectator area's barrier were completely petrified by this unexpected situation. What had happened? The instructor, Gregory, stared intently at the sky as she gathered the students. He then placed his hand on the sword device at his waist. An abyss's instincts were very similar to those of a carnivore. They tended to counterattack or pursue fleeing prey. If anyone were to move carelessly, the abyss, which was in the sky, could react and most likely begin attacking the spectator area. For this reason, Gregory hesitated in her decision. But, at that moment, the humanoid mechanical abyss, the gargoyle, roared. At the same time, several luminous projectiles were fired from its wings. The projectiles were aimed at the ground. In other words, the spectator area of this training ground. Just as the instructors and students caught their breath, Lux Arcadia slashed the gargoyle in the sky. Part 2. What? When Lucifer focused her attention on the gargoyle in the sky, Lux Arcadia suddenly accelerated. She swiftly aimed upwards with her partially destroyed sword, overtook Lucifer, and closed the distance to the gargoyle. At the same time, light projectiles shot downwards from her wings. But drag ride roar. A shockwave began to form in front of Lux Arcadia's wyvern. It was a basic drag knight technique that unbalanced the enemy by using a shockwave generated from the force core. The trajectory of the attack was deflected, and the projectiles, although they did eventually hit the ground, landed in an empty area nearby. Bang! Moments later, a loud crash was heard, followed by a shockwave. The wind toppled trees, creating a violent sandstorm. The screams of the students could be heard from the spectator area. Lucifer. What does this mean? Why did an abyss suddenly appear just as Lucifer, visibly distraught, was preparing to equip the 7-headed dragon of her Tiamat? Lucifer could hear Lux Arcadia's voice directly in her mind. It was the communication ability between allied drag rides' dragon voice. As she spoke, Lux Arcadia blocked the gargoyle's path. Long, slender arms and gleaming purple claws appeared. Lux Arcadia blocked the endless high-speed attacks with her partially destroyed sword. With the power of my wyvern, I cannot destroy the abyss. Please descend and aim at the enemy from the ground. Are you trying to give me orders? For starters, can you hold off the abyss on your own? I'll manage. The signal to begin the attack will be immediately after I raise my sword. Hey. Wait a minute. Lux Arcadia. But then he hears someone else talking. Lucifer, please distract the abyss. Don't let him go to my brother. I'll take care of it. I'll show him something no one can imagine. It was Issei's voice. Beep. Selfishly, he cut off communication via dragon voice. Lucifer gritted her teeth. But the reality was that Tiamat's extreme energy expenditure had pushed her to the limit. There was enough energy for a single full power shot. Lux Arcadia's judgment was correct. Nevertheless, Lucifer. Is he crazy? Even a lone drag knight from the royal army couldn't do that. When Lucifer, who was on the ground, looked up, she saw the scene. Shortly after the gargoyle fired all the light projectiles, numerous explosions could be heard. The spectator area and its surroundings were in panic and confusion. Lucifer. Hey. Haven't they authorized the use of the sword devices yet? We must flee quickly or fight. Lux. Haven't the reinforcements arrived yet? What are the guards doing? Lucifer. Why did the third-year students have to go to a training exercise at a time like this, teacher? Everyone, listen carefully. All students carrying a sword device must wield it. Deploy a barrier at 70% power and protect the unarmed students. Do not attack the abyss. In the current real combat situation, and given that this was their first combat experience, the instructor reprimanded the students. While observing from a safe distance, the 3 girls who make up the triad and Irie gathered together. Because Irie's body is very weak, she is considered a civilian. Therefore, she possesses neither a sword device nor a drag ride. In order to protect her, the 3 girls of the triad deployed their drag rides and created a barrier around her. Irie. Goodness, after all, they are still drag knight candidates. They are very vulnerable to sudden disturbances. Irie sighed as she surveyed the surroundings. Nakuto, who noticed this, nodded slightly. Yes. But you can't blame them. In the event of having to fight an abyss with a general-purpose drag ride, it would be necessary to have at least 3 high-level renowned students or 7 mid-level users. It is said that in the case of low-class users, it would be a battle simply to retreat or try to resist with at least 10 renowned users. Moreover, in this case, we were caught off guard certainly. The dignified blue-haired girl, Sheris, looked around and nodded. Irie. It was good that you ordered the students who could fight to resist and establish a defense. Those who were shaken after seeing the abyss's strength would be useless. A soldier who has been corroded by fear should not participate in the battle. That is what my father told me. Tilfer. More importantly, Lux Arcadia-kun, will you be alright? Tilfer said, murmuring nervously. Sheris also nodded. Sheris. The weakest undefeated. He seems very good at defense, however, that's useless against an abyss. If other instructors don't arrive, Sheris said with noticeable tension in her voice. Irie. It seems there's only one enemy, huh? Irie looked at the sky and murmured. Then he won't lose. If it's Nai-san, isn't that right, Ani-chan? But to his surprise, his brown-haired brother, or rather, his silver-haired brother, wasn't there. In the sky above the training field, the light danced. The gargoyle extended claws from its arms at great speed. Lux Arcadia, for his part, stopped them with his sword. Lux was able to perfectly anticipate each of the attacks, which didn't allow a single moment to breathe. Moreover, the power of the attacks was enough to weaken the armor that received them. When he lost his balance due to the attacks, he counterattacked no matter what. The gargoyle began to pursue Lux Arcadia, who had closed the distance between them. The black of the abyss and the blue of the wyvern. The traces of both colors intersected countless times in midair, not without first leaving a trail of intense sparks created by the clashes. Although he was overwhelmed by the fact that his armor was weakening more and more, Lux Arcadia's mind was not confused. He could only perform minimal evasive actions. If the gargoyle managed to move away, it could change its target and direct its attacks toward the spectator area, where his younger sister, Irie, was located, along with the other non-combatant students. It was a situation that further restricted his defensive options. However, it's time to see through his actions, huh? The skill that could be said to be the essence of Lux Arcadia manifested. He managed to overcome life or death crises countless times. His armor was so familiar to him that he came to consider it part of his body. It moved beyond his thoughts or reflexes. At that moment Lux Arcadia's scenario was complete. He barely managed to slip through the claws and casually, with perfect timing, stabbed the gargoyle in the chest. Due to Lux's sudden counterattack, who had been focused on defending himself, the gargoyle showed signs of agitation for the first time. A wound the size of a finger appeared on his hard body. It was only that, but the gargoyle's expression showed signs of anger. Lux Arcadia's combat experience was not limited to the tournament held in the capital. On several occasions, he had to work defending the ruins and fighting against the abyss. Among the terrified students lying on the ground, Lux Arcadia could hear a great commotion. Gwaya. The gargoyle's movement stopped for a moment, then it unleashed a great roar. It was impossible to tell if it had recognized Lux as a powerful enemy, since it didn't speak. Nevertheless, Lux immediately prepared himself. Gargoyles are among the most intelligent species, even among the abyss. It was said that they could not only launch surprise attacks like wild beasts, but also knew how to use a tactical retreat. Lux Arcadia. Reinforcements are coming. They are preparing for the siege. Just hold on a little longer. A message came through dragon voice from Instructor Regri, who was on the training field. Gwai. As Lux focused for a moment on the message, the gargoyle surged forward and headed toward him. Lux reflexively raised his sword. Despite this, the gargoyle flew past him and hurtled toward the training field directly in front of him. At the same time, it spread its black wings, which glowed with a faint purple light. The harbinger of a bombardment. The target was the spectator zone. As they ran for cover, the students watching the fight unfold held their breath, as if they'd been pushed. Lux increased the propulsion power of his wyvern and pursued the gargoyle. When he reached the gargoyle's back, Lux swung his sword. At that instant, Gwaa. Suddenly, the gargoyle halted his attack and turned. The gargoyle possessed great intelligence. During the brief exchange of blows, he understood Lux's abilities and saw through his eagerness to fight. The gargoyle, who had pretended to attack the students, had actually ambushed Lux. Lux's unsuccessful attack sliced through the sky. Lux Arcadia was defenseless against the gargoyle. Shia from below, the flash of claws. It pierced a barrier and destroyed the armor covering Lux Arcadia's shoulders. In the sky above the training field, a spray of fresh blood danced. Kuoh. The wyvern system gave way and Lux Arcadia began a freefall. At that moment I understand. Lucifer's smile was reflected in Lux Arcadia's eyes as she stared at her. If you give someone with a solid defense the chance to fail, you'll bring them down even if they use all their energy. It's certainly a common strategy, monster. I'm the same. Guy. The gargoyle's thrashing was overshadowed by a great flash. Seven-headed dragon, the most powerful weapon of the divine drag ride Tiamat, whose master is Lucifer. The 7 luminous pillars that had emerged from the cannon pierced the gargoyle's metallic body and pulverized it. Letting out an agonized scream, the gargoyle incinerated itself, its ashes scattering in the air. Lux Arcadia fell amidst a deafening roar of metallic debris. Peace returned once the beast was defeated. Cheers could be heard from the students in the shelter. However, what kind of? Why? Another abyss appeared, flying at great speed towards Lux. She didn't have the strength to fight and was going to have to use her other sword. But there is no scream from anyone known. Nice and runs. It was Issei running to save him. Issei. They took me away from you once and I won't let them take me away again now that I'm reunited with you. He had sacrificed his heart to his dragons so that they would give him power. Issei. Dark Dragon God Balance Breaker. It was his scream and suddenly a great red beam struck him and out of nowhere a red and black armor like the Sekiryuutei's appeared. But it had some differences. It had spikes and other things. She unfurled her wings and flew toward saving her brother, watched by everyone who was amazed to see such armor, including her sister and the princess. Issei. Tenesto. Dark shoot. The red sphere shot from the armor's fist, heading towards the abyss. The incredibly intelligent creature dodged the sphere, but it continued its trajectory, shattering the surrounding landscape and creating a massive crater. Still aimlessly, it crashed into a mountain, triggering a huge explosion that obliterated everything except the city. It's worth noting that everyone was terrified by the armor's power as they witnessed an explosion the size of a city. The abyss now had a new target and it was the silver-haired man. How did he know he would go with the sword of his right arm? But this looked even more terrifying. The abyss was traveling at top speed, but no one could have imagined what was going to happen next. Issei. I'll send you to the depths of Black Purgatory Dark Shoot Blaster. He makes a cut with which he hits the creature and at the moment of impact it explodes into 1,000 pieces. The cut splits the field in half but does not destroy it, it only leaves a large line. Issei collapsed to the ground without his armor as it was the first time he'd worn it and fainted. His sister rushed to his side, as did his brother, to check on him and find out what had happened to the armor. After a training battle, taking a bath was Lysichert's daily routine. Her fighting spirit was heightened after the battle. Obviously, she couldn't heat water for an entire public bathhouse at night, so she limited herself to washing off the sweat in the shower area. The warm water cascaded over the young girl's skin, causing a few dips. As the hot water spread over her body, Lysichert's face flushed and she let out a long sigh. Euphoria right after the battle and the feeling of satisfaction from victory. The girl had experienced this kind of thing before. But what is this? This feeling. Today's feeling was different from the previous ones. Lysichert. To think that there would be a man of my generation who could stand up to me moreover. She thought it was the first time. A man who tried to help and protect me the instant the abyss attacked. Lux Arcadia faced the enemy and protected Lysichert, who was drained of energy, but then her other brother appeared and destroyed the second. He faced the enemy without hesitation. This is the first time. The first time I think I lost. The new kingdom was established and Lysichert, who became the princess, saw that the man a symbol of the old empire was her enemy. Or at least an existence that would be better considered a stepping stone. Even toward her father, who planned the coup to overthrow the old empire, she never felt affection. She never had romantic feelings. But she might have been lucky that it was he who saw this. As she touched her abdomen, just below her navel, Lysichert felt anxious. Although it was a secret no one should know, the fact that she felt relieved was strange. The girl covered her body with a towel soaked in hot water. When her hand casually touched her chest, badump. Lysichert felt a sweet throbbing sensation. Lux Arcadia and Issei Arcadia. The girl with well-formed lips smiled naturally after murmuring those words. Lysichert. So there are two reliable guys even among men, with those words, Lysichert realized his feelings. It was the first time he had found what he was looking for in people. He had a dream. 6 years ago. A year before the coup d'etat. Lux Arcadia was heading to the imperial court. The largest country in the world, the Arcadia Empire. A single-family mansion located in the royal palace of the imperial capital. In the garden where vegetation predominated, Lux Arcadia gazed at the sky. Even though you haven't been to the capital for a long time, that's a very boring face. Dear younger brother. A silver-haired man standing behind her, leaning against a marble pillar, spoke. First Prince Fugel smiled ironically. He was Lux Arcadia's older brother, despite having different mothers. He had retired from the front lines due to an injury and illness resulting from an accident. In reality, he had a close relationship with Lux Arcadia, who had also been expelled from the imperial court under certain circumstances. Was I wrong? Lux Arcadia murmured, her gaze fixed on the surface of the fountain's water. The expression of the young man wearing the imperial family's robes was cold and indifferent. No, you did well, Fugel replied calmly. The honor of being the youngest person in the empire to obtain a drag knight license. To use the opportunity of being invited to the imperial court for that recommendation, your skill in reporting to our father to his majesty, the emperor was splendid. It's hard to believe you're only 12 years old. El fortalecimiento de las leyes del sistema de Androcracia. Los Altos Impuestos Gracias a la Expansión Militar y Experimentos Humanos para probar poderosas drogas en los ciudadanos más pobres. Lux Arcadia había declarado al emperador que quería que todo eso cesara. Fugil. Aun así, su majestad, el emperador, ni se tomó la molestia de escuchar. Tu duda tiene fundamento, este imperio está creciendo en la dirección equivocada. Aunque su hermano mayor, Fugil, tenía la misma opinión, la expresión de Lux Arcadia no cambió en lo absoluto. Le dijo Fugil es su hermano menor, quien no mostraba ni resentimiento o decepción incluso después de perder su mayor oportunidad. Al parecer se decidió que tu hermana también iría a las regions remotas en 2 meses. Poor girl, after losing her mother she was left bedridden due to her illness. I wonder if it's to boost troop morale or for diplomatic purposes. His Majesty's methods are simple. Once you oppose him, he will show no mercy, even if it's a family member. Fugil. What do you think, Nai-san? Regarding the reality of this empire. Lux Arcadia turned to his brother Fugil and asked. It wasn't the expression of a spoiled child. It was different. It was the smile of an inhuman ruler. The smile of someone who had cast aside his ethics and emotions. Lux. The empire is tainted with depravity, corruption, inequality, tyranny, high taxes, and oppression. The mechanism that which advances erroneously does not stop. Her Majesty and the ministers didn't even listen to my report, although it would have been excellent if our brother weren't here with us, Lux Arcadia said calmly. Despite that, no one tries to stop him, no one tries to correct him. Not even those of noble lineage who possess authority. It's the same with vassal chiefs and feudal lords. You're right. Fugil nodded at this indifferent observation. Fugil. He doesn't even consider the people's quality of life or correct injustices. He's not fulfilling his duty. Nobles who dedicate themselves to stealing, imposing, and coveting. They've lost the pride of being above others. Even their subordinates are like that. Today's nobles must be aware of their depravity. However, once they cease to be the exploited and become the exploiters, they would never consider going so far as to abandon their wealth and save the people. He will allow it because he enjoys the irrational misfortune of others. Lux Arcadia nodded slightly at Fugil's words. That's why this empire the world isn't changing. It can't be changed. As long as the empire continues to monopolize the drag rides, any uprising will be shrouded in tragedy. I've heard many stories about attempted resistance and even unnecessary massacres. Even so, there's nothing we can do now. Fugil. No, I don't think that's true. Interrupting Fugil, who had already resigned himself to his fate, Lux said, there's something I must tell you. Will you listen? That's why I came to the imperial capital. Lux Arcadia gave a grim smile. Fugil was perplexed. The scene blurred and disappeared. Finally, Lux Arcadia regained consciousness. The reddened rays of the sun streamed through the window. A small room smelled of medicine and flowers. Lux Arcadia woke in the bed of that room. A bandage had been tied to his chest, where he had been wounded. It seemed the wound was superficial. Lux. Is this place? Issei. Hello brother Lucifer. Ah why you woke up. Yuwaki Lux Arcadia and Issei jumped upon hearing a nearby voice. Lux had a bead of sweat on his brow from his brother's scream. A blonde-haired girl. The Scarlet Princess, Lucifer, was sitting in a nearby chair, watching Lux and Issei. It seems that this place is the Academy's infirmary. Lucifer. Does your wound hurt? The doctor here has good skills, but with a somewhat rigid expression, Lucifer observed Lux Arcadia's face. She looked very worried about him. After understanding the situation, Lux Arcadia lowered her gaze for a few moments. Lux. Thank you. He said with a smile. Perplexed, Lucifer tilted her head and looked at Lux Arcadia. Lux. For taking care of someone like me, and thank you, brother, for greeting me. For a few moments, Lucifer blinked as if surprised. Lucifer. Lux Arcadia. I don't know if you're modest or arrogant. Was everyone in the royal family like this? And you, Issei Arcadia, have a lot to tell us about that armor. Lux. I don't know. I was expelled from the imperial court when I was a child. While Lux Arcadia smiled ironically, Lucifer murmured softly, I see. Lucifer. Does it have anything to do with you rushing into the abyss without even thinking? He continued in a somewhat awkward tone, Lucifer. A normal person couldn't face an abyss with a general purpose drag ride, why did you save me, just like your brother? No one is capable of facing one of those things, especially with such strange armor. Looking somewhat shy, Lucifer asked. Lux. I don't remember. Lux Arcadia answered honestly, a wry smile playing on her lips. Lux. However, I just thought I should. My sister often scolds me, saying, Nai-san does whatever comes to mind. Something like that. When she said that, Lucifer crossed her arms, her expression turning thoughtful. Lucifer. I see. Well, that's fine. After all, my principles tell me not to dwell on unnecessary things. You protected me, you protected us. Let's leave it at that. Issei. You're quite straightforward, aren't you, princess? Issei Arcadia said with an awkward smile. Lucifer. Yes, that's correct. I am a very forgiving and generous princess to those who are competent. Lucifer replied cheerfully with an adorable smile. It seemed that the caution and hostility she had felt toward Lux Arcadia had completely disappeared. Instead, her childlike attitude was purer and more honest than before. It was refreshing. Lucifer. Yes. You could be a very useful man, fallen princess. Lux and Issei sighed in relief at the princess's words, who had blushed and nodded. Lucifer. Very well, Lux Arcadia. I will believe you. So I will keep my promise. Lucifer suddenly stood up and said, promise. Lucifer. I told you, didn't I? The reason I challenged you to a duel. Ever since you saw that, I couldn't let things go, that's why Lux. Ah. I'm sorry, I saw everything but, it was beautiful. Lucifer. Don't remind me, you stupid prince. What I wanted to talk about is Lucifer snatched it away as if it were a towel. At the same time, her face grew redder and redder. Lux, for his part, covered his eyes. Did I say something rude? As usual, I don't know how to interact with girls. While Lux Arcadia pondered this, he picked up the towel in front of him. Issei. It's this. An incredible sight appeared before his eyes. With the rays of the setting sun passing through the window, he could see Lucifer's skin. She rolled her blouse up, lowered her underwear slightly, and stopped. As if to say, I wanted you to see it. Lucifer's cheeks, as she averted her gaze, flushed red not only from the sun, but also from embarrassment. Lucifer. That's right. This is why I challenged you to a duel. You saw this during what happened in the bathroom, so the girl's body showed clear signs of growth in certain areas. Lux Arcadia was completely captivated by this immature beauty. Lucifer. Why aren't you saying anything? How about you say something? Air at the same time as he forgot himself, Lux Arcadia thought. That's right. I'll use the art of conversation I learned at the bar where I worked. When you compliment a girl, you should first compliment how good her clothes look. Lux. They look really good on you, those white panties. Lucifer. You what? Are you an idiot? Pervert. Die. I failed again. I must forget everything I learned when I worked there. Issei. You really are a pervert, little brother. Lucifer, who had put his clothes back on, sat down in the chair while Lux Arcadia lamented. The family crest of the old empire consisted of a black dragon. That mark was on Lucifer's abdomen, below his navel. Issei. Why? Lucifer. I can't tell you yet. Don't tell anyone about this crest. Please. Do you promise? The body of the princess of the new kingdom bears the mark of the old empire. It was proof of treason or of claiming a false lineage. Certainly, if this fact were known, it would cause several doubts. However, despite the doubts, Lux Arcadia was worried about the princess. Lucifer remained silent and lowered her gaze. It could be said that she conveyed despair. It wasn't I want you to overlook it, rather, it was I want you to believe me. That's right, he sensed what she held in her heart. Surely it wasn't something she should feel guilty about, it was a simple secret. Even Lux Arcadia had his own background, and that's why he could understand. This girl probably didn't do anything wrong. Issei. Everything will be alright. We won't tell anyone. Lucifer. Really? Can you swear? Lux. We swore it before the sword device I possess. Lux Arcadia straightened her posture and bowed her head. Lucifer, for her part, sighed with a feeling of relief and smiled. Lucifer. Thank goodness. I originally planned to interrogate you in various ways once I managed to put you under arrest in an underground prison, but… So you were trying to confine and interrogate me after finishing me off and then sending me to the doctor. As expected, that's not how a princess should think. She's a brusque person, this girl Lucifer. Good. Then this matter is settled. With that said, you will come to this academy every day starting tomorrow. Issei. There's something I have to do. From the beginning, the job of being a drag ride mechanic apprentice. Request made by Director Really. A lot has happened, but I could finally return to my duties. When Lux Arcadia was freed from her anxiety, Lucifer. By the way, the mechanic apprentice job has been cancelled. Starting tomorrow, you will attend our academy as a student. Issei. Yes. Understood. Several seconds after giving that answer, Lux Arcadia realized the meaning. Wait, is this a joke, right? I'm a man, Lucifer said instinctively. Why, you can call me Lisha too, like my female companions. This is a promise, as well. She seemed to be completely serious. Seeing Lisha's shy smile, Lux felt the wound in his chest worsen. Issei was a little nervous since it would be her first time at an academy with only girls. Well, it wasn't exactly normal, but she felt that something more was coming, and very soon. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.